We're back today with Paul Mckenna talking about his life and career and phenomenal success in the world of hypnotism. And now he's an international star, having had massive TV success in America. He's just flown over there to record a brand new series on a 2-year contract. I first came across Paul Mckenna during his weight loss book, and a side of me with him being a TV personality hypnotist wondered whether it was just hocus pocus. Seems to work for a lot of people, though. Paul Mckenna, is your stuff just smoke and mirrors?
Well, the evidence is, the research is pretty much in my favour. We did a research study, actually not us, but an independent company did recently, and it showed that my weight loss system has a 71% success rate. Now, that's 7 times more than any diet. That's 7 times better than any diet in the world. So right now, your best chance of losing weight is with my system. And that's not me saying, that's an independently verified study, which was done over a period of time on the system. So, I mean, right now, if this was a drug, I could take this to a drug company for $1 billion, but it's not. The delivery system is through books and seminars and CDs. But it works. It doesn't work for everyone, but it works for most people most of the time. And I tell you, that's a lot better than diets, because diets work for less than 10% of people. 91% of dieters fail. Diets are rubbish. Diets are a con. I don't know why anyone would do a diet. I suppose what happens is, people think to themselves, oh, I really better lose some weight. I know, I'll go and get that book by that person on TV or that video, that DVD. Now, the people that are probably least qualified to tell you how to lose weight are the ones making the most money from it at the moment. Just because someone's rather good looking and they read auto cue on television doesn't mean that they know anything about human behavior. Weight loss is about changing human behavior. Just because someone's a nutritionalist, what the hell do they know about human behavior? If you want to lose weight and you want to keep the weight off, you have to change your relationship to food. I don't care if you've been overweight all your life, if all your family's overweight. I don't mind if you're a late night snacker, a binge eater, if you can't seem to just shift those last 10 pounds. My system will work for you. It works for nearly everyone, nearly all the time. And I tell you, nothing else works that well.
Let's start at the beginning then. When did you become Paul Mckenna the hypnotist? When did you become the man that wanted to have the power over the people?
Well, I used to do what you do. I was a local radio broadcaster and quite happy doing that. And I was interested in yoga and meditation. And one day I went to interview the local hypnotist, and I was feeling particularly stressed that day. I used to do yoga and, meditation all the time, but I was having a right old stressful day. And I said to the guy, go on then, do your weirdy mind thing on me. And I was amazed at how relaxed I felt, and actually quite euphoric afterwards. I felt quite astounded by how good it was. So I borrowed some books from this guy and began hypnotizing my friends to help them lose weight and quit smoking. And it worked pretty much, each time. And then the inevitable thing would happen. I'd be at a party and everyone would say, oh, make Fred think he's a kangaroo, or a washing machine or something. And we'd all fall about laughing. And so it kind of took off from there. From there, I thought to myself, wow, hypnosis is a great party trick. It's very powerful for helping people improve their lives. But the way to demonstrate it to people is through the entertainment format. So I carried on doing the 2 jobs for a while. I was a radio broadcaster during the day and a hypnotist entertainer by night. But I suppose my main passion was the self-improvement side of it. And I eventually landed a television show. This will be back in the early 90s, about 10 years ago. And I would do this on television, go out at night and do shows. But during the day, I would do seminars, make tapes and CDs, that kind of thing, to help people. And I suppose my life has changed direction over the years, and I've been taken more in the direction of the self-improvement. Even though I've done that all the time, that's what people, I suppose, know me for better these days, whereas 10 years ago, everyone said, oh, it's the man who makes, a man think that a broom is his favourite supermodel and snog it. Whereas nowadays, people know me for the books.
Hypnotism is fascinating. It's banned in this country in theatres. Some people believe it's evil. Some people believe it's black magic. I want to talk to you about the extremes to which people will go under your control. Do you think you could make somebody do something illegal or even kill somebody whilst hypnotised?
Okay, well, it's a good question. There were a number of people about 10 years ago when I was regularly doing entertainment shows on television who claimed that, they were down at the police station the next day looking for their invisible leprechaun, or, that they thought the washing machine was sexually attractive, or some, kind of mad stuff like this. And the government appointed a panel of very eminent psychologists and psychiatrists to look into these claims made by people. And I'm afraid to report back that they rubbished every single one of them. Not one of them, not even one of them had any validity. Now, I've seen these stories repeated from time to time, but, the truth is very simple. Hypnosis isn't not in the slightest bit dangerous, not one tiny little bit. Now, what you do have is that sometimes people who are vulnerable go to seek help from a therapist, and that therapist, he might be a doctor, might be a psychologist or a psychiatrist, or might be a lay therapist, has abused them. And, you'll read those kind of tales in the newspapers. But the idea which is suggested, which is, somebody sits down and they say, look into my eyes, and, and then they take advantage of them, is just utter nonsense. The kind of thing you see in a movie. There's no validity to that. But it makes kind of interesting newspaper copy. But there isn't a single case of that taking place in any psychological literature anywhere in the world. And the overwhelming evidence, and there's been thousands, tens of thousands of research studies done on hypnosis, the overwhelming evidence is that number one, it works for behavioral changes, like quitting smoking, losing weight, becoming more confident. It's actually the best technique for many things. And it's completely 100% safe, okay? So, yes, vulnerable people get abused by awful abusive people. And sometimes, some of them have been doctors, some of them have been hypnotists, some of them have been policemen, some of them are accountants, but hypnosis in and of itself is in no way whatsoever dangerous. It's completely safe.
But where's the line then? I don't understand if you can make me dance around a sweeping brush believing it's the most beautiful woman, that you couldn't make me do something illegal or at the worst extreme even kill somebody.
Great. All right. Good question. Again, firstly, the people that are dancing around, taking part in the horseplay, they know that what they're doing, but it just feels like the most natural thing in the world to do. It's a bit like karaoke. You know that you're singing I Will Survive badly, but you've had a few drinks, you don't care. So what hypnosis does is it lowers inhibitions, but it doesn't take over somebody's mind to the point that they've got no control. I know it may seem that way, but it doesn't. Now, when I ask somebody to do something that's on the stage, they've got the choice. They can, if it totally goes against their morals or values, they'll say no. For example, I asked a gentleman, I've had this happen to me twice in all the years I've been doing it, asked an Indian gentleman, when you wake up and you hear this piece of music, you'll think you're Elvis. He was doing all the other things in the show, but suddenly the music starts, he goes, popped out of the trance, I can't do this. And I said, why? He went, it's forbidden in my culture. I went, oh, okay, well, it's not in mine, but I respect your belief, sir, and then moved on to another routine. Now, the CIA did a number of experiments, and actually a number of other psychologists did, in the 1950s to see if hypnosis could be a mind control weapon, because it would have been very useful. But they found conclusively that people won't commit what they call antisocial acts. That's the actual technical term for it. It means like going and killing someone. Just because they're hypnotized. Now, you can manipulate and coerce and brainwash people into doing things that are not in their best interests. And the people who do that on a regular basis are cults, politicians, salespeople, all get us to do things that are not in our best interest, but in theirs. For example, I remember reading a quote by Adolf Hitler. He said, it's the good fortune of governments that people don't think. And Goebbels, his right-hand man, said, most people don't want to go to war, but if you can motivate anyone to go to war if you tell them they're under attack. So those are the kind of misuses that I think that we find, when people say, well, that's not hypnosis, I consider politicians, cult leaders, salespeople, all of these people to be the everyday hypnotists. You could say that, teachers and parents are as well. We're conditioning our children, in many good ways. We're teaching them how to read and write and, the sort of the moral structure. And we're doing that through a process of conditioning. So conditioning, mind control is not a bad thing as such, provided that it's used in benevolent ways. So, where do we draw the line? Well, I think that's a personal issue. But I think equally we also all know what's right and what's wrong. And what I try and do, and I think the vast majority of hypnotists try and do, is always give suggestions that are in everybody's best interests. You know, my suggestions are that people might want to change behaviors to help them live a bit longer, to have a more healthy life, to feel better in themselves. And also I do a show where I get people to lose their inhibitions and do, you know, some stunts that are comedic, but never in an utterly humiliating way or anything like that. You know, and if you look at, say, some of the morally reprehensible reality shows that are on now, hypnotism shows are quite tame compared to those.
Could you hypnotise me now, Paul, even if I didn't want to be?
Well, not really. I mean, it is possible, yes, to hypnotise you without... I'm going to change that answer. I'm going to say it is possible to hypnotise you without you realising. And by hypnosis, I mean focus on one idea to the exclusion of all others, right? To go into that lovely daydream. But to then get you to do things that are fundamentally against your morals and values, no. So, yes, I can get you relaxed, get you focused, and I can also open your mind to other possibilities. So say you come to see me and you want to quit smoking or you want to lose weight. I have to help you change the way that you've coded the behaviors in your unconscious mind so that you can take on new behaviors, new perspectives. But, you know, if I can just sit here and talk to you and say, you know, when you wake up, you know, you'll go and rob a bank, is that likely? No. That's not, actually. But if I was a nasty, coercive, you know, mind-shagging cult, then I could probably, you know, through a process of wearing you down and, you know, finding the emotional chinks in your armor, you know, get you to think it was a good idea to give all your money to the cult leader and work 20 hours a day for the, you know, the glory of the cult and, you know, convince you that the cult leader is in direct communication with God and all that sort of nonsense. So do you see the difference between the two? You know, hypnosis doesn't involve coercion. It involves relaxation, focusing on one idea to the exclusion of others, letting go of the normal mindsets that we hold, you know, in our everyday thinking. And that can be done so that we can change a behavior, or it can be done so that we can let go of our sort of inhibitions and, you know, take part in a bit of horseplay on the stage. The other kind of behavioral change that I was talking about, which is highly coercive, is the type that cults, high-pressure salespeople and politicians engage in.
What I don't understand, though, is how. How can you know all of this, yet we, the masses, have no idea what you're talking about?
Well, I have specialised in the last 20 years, Alex, in helping people make certain changes, because I don't have all the answers. Crikey, I mean, you know, I have as many problems as everybody else. Problems are how you learn and grow. But I've made my life about several things. I'm an entertainer, but in parallel to that, and in fact, well, most of my time is spent running my self-improvement training company, which is probably the largest self-improvement training company in this country now. And, you know, I write books and make DVDs. And yes, it is a commercial venture for me, but it's also what I feel passionate about. You know, some of my friends are, you know, passionate about, you know, something else, and they make their life about that, you know, and we talk about this. It's funny, you know, I just can't seem to get excited about, computers, whereas, you know, a lot of my friends are so excited by the new operating software or, you know, how many RAM is in their computer. It just depends what you're driven by. You know, other friends of mine love horses. I think they're beautiful, they're fantastic, but, you know, they want to get to the stable and go riding and everything and all of that. So my passion is people. And I particularly like working with people and helping them make changes. And what has happened in the last sort of 20, 30 years, in the same way that there's been terrific advances in, say, computer technology and telecommunications, there has also been in psychological techniques. I mean, once upon a time, a telephone was the size of a briefcase, and it was a mobile telephone, yeah? And it was very expensive, and it didn't do a lot of stuff, right? Now, everybody's got a cellular telephone. It's the size of a bar of chocolate, and you can send video pictures on. It's amazing. Now, in the same way, it used to take us 6 months to remove a phobia, but now just about every single phobia in the world can be removed in less than an hour. But there aren't enough people who know how to do it yet. I'm training lots of people, but you know, that's what we're actually up against. So the technology exists for everyone to be cured of their phobias right now. Also, you have a lot of nonsense to get through, right? Like, for example, recently the government gave millions of pounds to these white coats to go and research why people have phobias. I don't think we need to know why. What difference is that going to make? If you'd given me that £10 million, I could have gone and cured every phobia in this country. So, one of the reasons that a lot of people don't know about the techniques that I'm using is because there is a bit of resistance to it, because the system up until now worked in a particular way. For years, everyone was hung up on this thing called psychoanalysis, which frankly is rubbish and doesn't work. And, it was invented by that pervert Sigmund Freud, who was off his head most of the time, coming up with these bonkers theories, about us wanting to sleep with our own mothers. Now, I take a much more pragmatic, modern view of psychological change. I don't think we need to take somebody who feels very upset and keep asking them to recall all the big traumas of their life over and over again. That's like taking someone with a broken leg and throwing them down the stairs until they feel better. I think that people work kind of mechanically, and so I'm interested in the process that they go through in their brain and in their body when they're doing something highly functional or dysfunctional.
In your research, have you found that if you press the right buttons on everybody, you'll get the same reaction?
Not entirely. No, we are unique, all of us, but we all have the same fundamental structure in that we all share the same neurology as human beings and physiology, apart from so there are some genetic differences. But yeah, sure, we're all going to be different in our personalities and our beliefs and in our unique skills and talents. But we essentially all have the same kind of body and brain, and the same way of operating the software inside our mind. And really, that's what I'm like. I'm like a computer programmer. So if somebody's overweight, or they want to quit smoking, they can't do, or, they've got panic attacks or insomnia, or they suffer from stress, they're not bad, wrong, broken. They've just got faulty programming. And I overwrite the operating software of their brain so that they become more functional. And that's why I'm able to get these astounding success rates with helping people lose weight and so on, is because I'm not trying to analyze why it is that they're overweight. What I'm doing is I'm looking at how it is that they've created that pattern, and I go and change it. I spoil the old pattern and install a new pattern. That's all it is.
I've seen you on so many TV shows get people, for example, who can't stand snakes or tarantulas, and they won't even come within 100 feet of them. The next minute, within an hour, you come back and they're happy to hold them. Yeah. Now, have you just put them in some kind of trance? Is this just a momentary thing that they're able to do that, or is this for the rest of their lives?
Well, in most cases, it will be for the rest of their lives. You see, we're only born hardwired with two fears, which is the fear of sudden loud noises or the fear of falling. All the other fears are learned. Therefore, they can be unlearned. I'll give you an example of how phobias are learned. The most common fear and phobia in the Western world right now is the fear of public speaking. And the way that we all get that nicely installed is at school. Stand up, read in front of the class, and I'll point out every mistake you make in front of everyone else so you can feel worthless again and again and again. And so, inadvertently, many well-intentioned teachers are actually making us scared to speak in public. You don't feel scared speaking in front of your friends because they're not going to harshly negatively judge you. They're going to laugh or support you or, give you encouragement. And so what I do is I take feelings of power and confidence and I create, if you like, a psychological switch for that. And I get somebody to think of the thing that scares them, and yet I switch on the confidence simultaneously. And it wipes out the old feelings of fear and installs a new feeling of confidence. It's like overwriting the operating software of the brain.
So does this knowledge that you have come from years of research putting that together, or is this a unique thing that you've come up with?
I've taken the best from the best people and incorporated it into, to some extent, it's my own particular style. But I actually use a technology which is developed by, I think, the world's greatest living behavioral scientist, Dr. Richard Bandler. He created a technology called NLP. It stands for Neuro Linguistic Programming. And NLP is used by every government in the world, by every major corporation uses NLP, lots of educational institutions. NLP is everywhere. NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, neuro referring to brain, neurology, linguistic, obviously language, and programming, like a computer has programs, so does a human being. So in order to shake hands or write a letter, boil an egg, make £1 million, you have got to rely on the programs inside your body that enable you to do all the things that you'd that you do in your everyday life. And the way that you communicate with yourself and others is important in that whole setup. So basically, everything we do comes down to our neuro-linguistic programming. And I know it sounds highly technical, that term, but it's incredibly simple when you actually read it. Anyone who's read my book, Change Your Life in 7 Days, most of the principles in that book are I've taken Richard's work and his NLP models, and I've made them I think simple, hopefully, and easy to understand. So, it's my way of putting it, but essentially I'm using a lot of Richard's work, yeah.
Are you using hypnosis to resolve these problems, or is it another technique?
Well, I'm using both. I have some very simple practical rules, principles that anyone can follow them. They're so easy. A monkey could follow them. But in addition, to reinforce the new patterns of behavior, the new ways of thinking and acting in the world, I use hypnosis because it's proven to be the best psychological technique for behavioral change.
Let's start with weight then. Can you help somebody that really doesn't want it themselves? Or does your technique override the lack of willpower that a person may have?
Well, I think it's always got to come from you because if you don't have the motivation to ask for help or to do something, then it's going to be an uphill struggle. And that really is half of the... I was going to say the battle, but it's not quite a battle. It's half of what's required is for you to go, do you know what, I'm going to do something. So people come up to me from time to time, they say, I want you to make me stop smoking. And I go, God, I bet you do. I bet you'd like me to make all your decisions for you. Yeah. Take responsibility. I say, I can help you. I can take away the cravings. I can make it so that cigarettes don't seem so important. But you've got to make that decision you're going to quit. Otherwise, you're just going to go back to it. And they go, oh, but I thought. I go, yeah, I know you thought. No, I'm sorry. You have to have some say in it. I'm a believer in give a man a fish, he eats for a day. Teach a man to fish, he eats for life. So many of my techniques are aimed at actually helping people to get more responsibility, get more control of their lives, learn to understand the wisdom of what their body's telling them when, say overeating's a perfect example. Once we tune into our body's natural intelligence and signaling, it's very difficult to overeat, and that's what I do.
So is it you just pressing my buttons to make me want to do it more than before?
Well, that's, first of all, with regard to being overweight, that's absolutely true. Yeah, it's eating too much and not exercising. And I would say this, it's not just pushing buttons. It's looking at, what I do is I made a study a few years ago of people who are overweight versus people who are naturally thin. And I watched lots of different things, and I noticed a curious thing. People who are overweight, first of all, they think about food all the time, right? And well, actually, I'll tell you what the 4 golden rules are. Let me do it like this: if you want to lose weight, it's very, very simple, and this works for most people most of the time. Number 1, when you are hungry, go and eat. I'm always meeting people who tell me, I'm on this fabulous diet. I go, come back and tell me about it in 6 months. Well, I'm still waiting for anyone to come back because they never work. If there was a diet that actually worked, they would just be a diet and everyone would stick to it. But, there's one along every 6 months and then another celebrity to endorse it, and it's just nonsense. They don't work. And you know what they start to do now? There are loads of them that start by going, this is not just another diet book. And then 100 pages of recipes. Right? It's utter nonsense. So, first of all, dieting, not only it would be bad enough if it didn't work, but actually it's far worse than that. Dieting makes people fat because when you starve yourself, your metabolism slows down. Your body thinks there's a famine on. It goes into survival mode. So it actually stores fat in the cells. It's the worst thing you can do. It makes you subconsciously tense around food. So whatever you do, when you're hungry, go and eat. The other thing is, some people go, well, it's all because it's the chocolate that does it. No, look. If you want a particular kind of food, have it. Now, if you make a food forbidden, you will crave it, and it will become it'll be so much more important to you. So I say to people, already when I've said these 2 golden rules, people are going, oh, you're having a laugh, mate. What? Eat when I'm hungry, eat when I want? Nah, you see, the 3rd rule, and this is the kernel of the system, is the curious thing about people who are overweight is they think about food all the time, except when they're actually eating it. And then what they do is they shovel food in as fast as they can. Now, there's a reason for this. When we eat, we release a happy chemical, neurotransmitter inside our brains called serotonin, which makes us feel good, makes us feel high, in fact. And so this is why people that are overweight shovel food in as fast as they can, because they're getting high from the serotonin. But because they're going at it like the clappers, they can't hear the signal from their tummy that tells them that they're full. So they eat way past the point where they should actually stop because they're satisfied. And it's only when suddenly that they've absolutely stuffed themselves, they feel fat and bloated, that they stop. So they feel so guilty about that, they go and do the whole thing again 2 or 3 hours later. Now, the very, very simple thing you can do is when you're hungry, go and eat. Eat what you want, not what you think you should. But this is it. This is the kernel of the system. And people go, it can't be that easy. I know you think that weight loss is difficult because you've been brainwashed by dieting to think it is. It's actually easy, easy, easy. Put the knife and fork down between mouthfuls. Prise your fingers off the sandwich and put your hands down. Put the sandwich down. Instead of trying to shovel as much in, if you slow your eating speed down to a quarter, it feels a bit weird at first, but you soon get used to it, and consciously enjoy each mouthful like a gourmet. You know, imagine you're French. Sit there, noticing the textures and the tastes. When you do that, suddenly your whole experience of food changes, because people who watch TV or read a magazine while they're shoveling away their food go unconscious. They're not paying attention to their body. They can't hear that signal, that all-important signal from their tummy that tells them they're full. So they eat more than they should, so their stomach becomes larger, so they can eat more the next time, and more the next time, and so on until they become fatter and fatter. Now, when they stop and they slow the process down, and they really pay attention to the how the food tastes, the texture and everything. First of all, it tastes better, but secondly, you can actually hear that signal from your tummy going, I'm satisfied. At that moment, stop. Even if your plate is half full. And people go, well, that's weird. I go, only at the moment it is. For a naturally thin person, it isn't. And they go, but you mean, what if I'm hungry 10 minutes later again? Well, if you're hungry, go and eat again, provided you chew each mouthful consciously and deliberately, and when you think you're full, stop. Now, people go, it can't be this easy. A friend of mine, I did this with him a few years ago. He lost 4.5 stone in 6 months. My tour manager's just done it. He said, I want to come to one of your seminars. I said, I'm going to tell you the process over the phone. He went, all right. And I told him the process. He's lost 1.5 stones in about 2 months. You know, and I can't tell you. If you look you see in my book, I Can Make You Thin, the testimonials. Maureen Edwards lost 18 stone. Using this system. She'd been overweight all her life. She's in her 40s. So people go, oh, it's all right for the youngsters. But us people have been doing it for years. No. You're conning yourself. Look, please, as far as I'm concerned, you can lie to everyone else. Don't lie to yourself. Really dangerous stuff. You know, the number of people who are overweight that will sit there at dinner and, you know, have a perfectly civilized small meal with everyone else, then go home and ram cream cakes, you know, as fast as they can down, and feel ashamed about it. All they need to do is to get my book or come to one of the trainings, and I promise you the chances of you succeeding are extremely high, much higher than they are on these rubbish diets. You know, 7 times more likely to succeed with my system than any other system in the world right now.
So me being a fatty then really is my mother's fault for making me clear my plate.
Oh, that's absolutely the Clean Plate Club. I'd like it to be illegal. Yeah, I mean, it's terrible. My mum and dad used to say this. They go, oh, it's starving people in Ethiopia. I go, and me being overweight helps them how? You know, it's nonsense. You're absolutely right. You want to leave food on your... People go, but it's wasting it. Look, the moment the chicken is cooked, it's wasted. Where do you want that chicken? On your backside or on your plate? Look, if you're hungry, go and eat. Tell your body there will always be enough food, so it doesn't need to slow the metabolism. It doesn't need to be in survival mode. Eat it slowly, consciously. Really taste it. And then as soon as you even suspect you're full, stop. And I guarantee if you follow those principles, you cannot not lose weight. By the way, my friend who lost the 4.5 stone, he didn't do a single bit of formal exercise. He didn't go to the gym. Because, you see, a lot of people think that exercise means, you know, running on a track. The average British man takes about 6,000 steps a day. The average British woman about 5,000. Somebody who's overweight takes only 2,000 less steps. That's about a 15, 20-minute walk, right? 4 city blocks. So all you have to do is walk a little bit more each day, and you're doing, and that's good exercise, by the way, you're doing the same amount of exercise as somebody who's not overweight. And suddenly when you put it like that, people go, oh, I could do that. I go, I know you can. You know, a lot of people I know are really thin. They don't do any formal exercise, but they're rushing about all day because their metabolism's fast, because they're not slowing it down by starving themselves on some stupid diet. And so what I'm saying to you is exercise can be easy. You know, a lot of people I know at the beginning of the year, they go, right, that's it. I've been a sinful, evil person. I've eaten too much at Christmas. I must punish myself by going to the gym. And then they get to the gym and it's too much like hard work. They pack it in after a week and they go, oh, it's not for me. It's for those thin people. Duh! It's not at all. It's just a state of mind.
And moving on to something slightly different, you can help people who stutter.
People who stutter don't breathe in the same way that people who speak normally do. And it's a number of things, but that's really at the base of it. What people who stutter do is they breathe all the way out, forget to breathe. I mean, try it now. You know, just go, breathe out, and then try and talk, and you feel like you want to stutter. So what I do is I get people to surf the breath, because when you've got that surf going on, it's very easy to speak continuously without, seemingly having to stop for long. And in addition to that, people who stutter also have linked to lots of fear to the idea of stuttering, so it becomes inevitably a self-fulfilling prophecy. So I teach them the appropriate breathing patterns. I also show them how they can overcome it by creating more confidence. And I do it really quickly. I did a stutterer the other day, and this guy, he's about 80% better. He still stutters a little bit, but 80% improvement, and it took me an hour. And so these people that go to the society where they have to spend a year, I say, forget that. There is, it's very nice, these well-intentioned people who want to help you. This is all lovely. But there are techniques now that can help you significantly reduce your stuttering in a very short space of time.
And finally, then, moving on to the biggest curse of our society, smoking. I can't bear it. I can't stand it. I can't understand why people would want to kill themselves when the facts are so obvious. Again, though, if they don't want to stop, they're not going to, are they? It doesn't matter how many patches or pills you take. You've got to want to stop.
Yeah, that's right. They do have to want to. The reason that people smoke is it gives quite a powerful change in feelings. When someone smokes a cigarette, they get a release of endorphins, the body's natural opiates. Now, there are a lot of good ways to get endorphins outside of smoking. Physical exercise does that. Anything, highly pleasurable. I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. Gives you a release of endorphins. But also, appreciating nice things. A beautiful summer's day when you're walking down the street, you feel so good. You're getting a little release of endorphins there. So smokers have really used cigarettes to give themselves artificial highs from the crude chemicals in a cigarette, often to control their stress. It's just a really crude stress control mechanism. Now, I don't have any moral stance on this. I think if people want to smoke, it should be their own business. If people want to eat mud, it should be their own business. I'm not on some crusade to stop people. However, I have to say that I agree with you. There are serious health risks with smoking. I don't consider it a very sensible, functional choice. But, we all do things from time to time that are not that sensible. I tried smoking when I was about 12 years old behind the bike sheds and coughed and spluttered and thought, good God, this is awful. Even though I want to be like the other tough guys in the school, I don't think I'll be doing that. So it doesn't appeal to me, but I can see why people do it. And increasingly, people want to stop, and I'm quite happy to help people stop. I mean, sometimes people have asked me to help them to quit, say, alcohol, or some people say, I just want to be able to have one drink and stop. And so again, I don't bring any moral judgment to it. I help them do just as much as they want to. So I see my job as a facilitator, really. I couldn't do something I felt morally opposed to. I think it would be difficult to do that. In fact, impossible, really, for me. But if people want to smoke, I think it's their own business. However, if they want to quit, I've got some very good techniques to help them.
You've had an amazing life and an amazing career so far. You've done arena tours, you've been on Broadway, you've even been on the show of one of my heroes, Howard Stern. You do his show. Now, he's an interesting guy, because if you've read his book, he suffers with OCD, this obsessive compulsive disorder syndrome that seems to be sweeping the country and the world. Yeah. Everybody's talking about this. Do you help with people like that as well?
Yeah. If you've got OCD, then definitely get in touch with us. We'd love to have you on the show. I really quite like doing the OCD cases. They're fascinating.
I went out for dinner with a friend of mine last Tuesday, and she locked the door twice on the car.
Yeah.
And when she opened it twice. And I said, why are you doing that? Oh, I have to do that. When I turn the lights off, I turn them on, turn them off, turn them on, turn them off to turn them off.
Yeah.
Where does that come from?
Well, it's just a bad habit. And, they're not mad, bad, broken. It's just a bad habit. I mean, I've seen all kinds of cases of this. Somebody who had to polish every light switch had to polish the sink. There couldn't be any little tiny specks of dirt or smears anywhere. Some people have to, sit down. They have to get up and touch the fridge 10 times and things like this. It's that human beings work a bit like a computer, and sometimes a bit of the software in our minds is a bit faulty, and that's all it is. And it can be rewritten very easily using techniques like hypnosis and some of the other modern psychological techniques that I employ.
The Alex Belfield In Conversation podcast with daisymedia.co.uk.